Hi everyone, and welcome to The Gentlemen Strangers. Thank you all for indulging our bizarre impromptu season break, but things are coming to a head, as you can probably tell by the fact that that lovely clock, which is in this direction, god damn it, this direction, is almost full. I know what directions are, I just don't know what direction you are, my lovely friends. I hope everyone's having a wonderful weekend so far. I don't have any administrative notes to deliver, so we'll get straight to it. As you may remember, a few sessions ago, during the downtime, the Ebony Door in the cellar of the Millennium Club, inscribed with various difficult to read glyphs, um, went blank to Mr. Spider's general distress. And yeah, so that's a bit of a problem, especially since you had commissioned Madame Constantine to look into matters for you. I realise now I've got the wrong names for you, so let's put your nom de guerre. So, Mr. Spider. I know Mr. Spider has been particularly intrigued by all relics of the Gentleman Stranger's history, and obviously the door itself has been mysterious enough to take you out of London and strike a bargain with Wilhelmina Constantine. To be honest, Madam Whisper doesn't really say much about it. From the first time you essentially gained custody of the whole operation, you looked through all of her notes for, obviously she'd been planning to hand over the reins to someone else. The only mention she makes of the door is that she calls the door hard fought for, and she says that it protects an extremely valuable asset. But beyond that, she doesn't say. And obviously, your efforts with Wilhelmina Constantine were designed to, in theory, allow you to open a door and find out what was beyond. And during this time, as you're recovering from your brief but pretty intense period of conflict with the McCreary outfit, now the McAlliskey outfit, Mr. Lurk has been popping to. Every now and then, one of you pops to Aventine. At the moment, because the Millennium Club isn't a public-facing institution, anyone who wants to reach you knows they can get you via the Aventine. And there's a letter addressed to the Gentlemen Strangers, care of Mr. Edward Hyde, the Aventine, Covent Garden, London. And whoever opens it, whoever reads it, it's a letter from Miss Constantine. And the pertinent section of the letter reads, "I expect explanations may be needed, and since you have acted as my allies, I intend to offer them. I have business which unusually brings me away from Witchcross and into London, and I shall be available to meet with you at Mr. H's establishment on the evening of the 12th. We can discuss matters arising and some business of mutual interest." Assuming that you wish to have such a meeting on the evening of the 12th, which turns out to be the next evening, you head to the Aventine, much as it always is, except for a sound that is not often heard in these parts, and that is the sound of the uproarious laughter of the usually taciturn Mr. Edward Hyde. As Wilhelmina Constantine is at the bar, chatting with Hyde and another patron, a patron you sort of recognize, but you've never really haven't met yet. And as you come in, Constantine seems to be at the tail end of a joke, which has Mr. Hyde roaring with laughter, a very unusual sight, since if he has a sense of humor at all, you assume it's a sort of a wry sense of humor. But no, he's cackling, he's slamming his hand on the bar. They're all having a jolly good laugh, and he sort of waves at you as you come in and starts pouring your usual drinks, which I think by now he knows. And Miss Constantine stands to and walks over to greet you. Oh, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
I assume you have a preferred table.
Uh, yes, uh, over here by the wall.
Ed, I'll be with them. Thank you.
You failed to mention that you were so intimately friendly with Mr. Hyde.
When one does business of our kind in the City of London, the Aventine is always a good place to start. And although I have, as it were, retired to the country, I was in London a fair bit in my day, and Mr. Hyde and I are old acquaintances, friends even.
Hmm. He's a fascinating man.
I'm sure he is. He knows his malts, which is very valuable to someone in my line of work, at least. I suppose I gathered this meeting, so I should begin first of all with an apology. I was not very straightforward with you when last we met. Of course, you must realize by now that when you handed me the diagram of the door, I instantly recognized what it was, and I'm afraid that I may have insinuated that more research was needed than necessary. In fact, I spent the intervening time trying to perform a ritual of remote sealing, which I think has worked.
I see.
You don't seem very pleased with me, which indicates that in fact it did work. So, while I do apologize for the inconvenience of it, I can assure you that it was entirely necessary. That door is extremely dangerous, and in fact, the business that brings me to London is its final destruction.
Destruction.
Yes, indeed. It's not really enough to seal the door from this side. I have to sever all of its connections and destroy the artifact itself. And since it is in a place which is private to you, gentlemen, I obviously will require your cooperation to an extent.
You understand, therefore, that we will need some explanations before we proceed.
Well, explanations. A part of the problem is that to explain the nature of the door is to provide a temptation against its destruction. Now, I do respect that the gentlemen strangers and Wilhelmina Constantine have the potential for a very productive working relationship, and I certainly don't want to toss that aside. But you have to understand that I want to be cautious about how precise I am when talking about these matters. I'm determined not to outright fabricate the truth, but perhaps you will allow me some vagueness from time to time. The door, as I'm sure you may have surmised, well, I am not certain, of course, where the door is, but I'm assuming you have deduced by now that it cannot possibly lead to a room in your own building.
Right.
Indeed, it does not. Um, Indeed, it does not. It is not. Well, actually, it may be the only door of its kind. It was not always. My family have made quite a quest of seeking out and destroying all of these doors. And I I know that my most recent ancestors have made great use of the age of sail to travel the world seeking the last few of them out. I had thought the quest was ended, but it seems that there is at least one still remaining in the world.
Why, therefore, should it find itself in our hands?
Well, the doors themselves are simple enough to move around, if one has enough occult nous to pull off the trick. I'm assuming that whomever you inherited this place from, or stole the place from, make no judgments, acquired it through some undoubtedly dark and eldritch bargain. As I say, the door is an intolerably dangerous artifact. I may be prepared to compensate you for the inconvenience of it, though I will be frank and say that since you came to me hoping I would help you open it, I therefore surmise you've never opened it yourself, and therefore the door has no value to you beyond your curiosity about it.
It is an artifact of our organization. A precious few that have survived, and we have lived with this door quite safely for some time.
Indeed, because you have not opened it, which is good, which is all to the good. But the very existence of the door poses a threat to London, and as such, it must be neutralized. I suppose if you're attached to the artifact of the door, I could pay for a replica.
We
Real ebony, if you insist.
we we have every reason to trust you, given
You
your
well.
we have every reason to trust you given your expertise.
Hmm.
But we do not have reason to trust you as regards our organization. As I said, we have precious few arcane resources to hand, and given the natures of what we fight, if there are items that are part of our organization, we would care to not be bereft.
Mr. Spider, the door can be of no value to you. You do not know what it is, and you do not know how to open it. You cannot tell me that you would be hard done by were this supposed asset removed from you, since it has not acted an asset at all. In fact, I would argue that such doors as this can never be assets, unless one, of course, is interested in cruder matters. If one is sufficiently hungry for power and lacking in a certain degree of the ability to imagine the future, then the doors have been known to be useful. After all, that is why so many were constructed and made use of by ill-advised magicians. But you don't strike me as someone who is ill-advised, and in fact I am attempting to well-advise you. You may not trust my motivations, but you can certainly trust my expertise. If you want to supervise the process, I suppose you may, although that might prove dangerous in and of itself, since you have no training in the matter. I respect the fact that undoubtedly the door has been placed in a secret location, but if there is anything a Constantine is good at, it is keeping secrets. Mostly. I said I wouldn't lie, Mr. Lurk, and I meant it.
It is not my unilateral decision to make. Should my compatriots have questions, I'm sure they are very. Ask them, gentlemen.
I feel like we shouldn't dance around what is behind the door. I know you said you were going to speak vaguely, but in vague terms, what does the door go to?
I can say that the doors all shared the same destination, and that it is a destination best left unvisited. It is not dangerous intrinsically to visit the destination, but the existence of that place is mediated through the door is dangerous. There are entities of great significance beyond, and
So are you worried about people going in or something coming out?
That is an excellent question, Mr. Leech, and the answer is they are the same thing. I have never known someone to enter that place and return here empty handed, and I believe that all doors are designed to work in two directions, Mr. Leech. This one is no exception. But when one installs a door between one's pantry and one's kitchen, that is not a problem. The pantry and the kitchen are not a threat to one another, and one generally wishes one's servants to be able to go between the two without any issue. Not all walls were built to host gates, Mr. Leech, and it is better that some walls be bricked up. As I say, you cannot convince me that you place any value on this particular door. You have never used it. You do not know what is beyond it. And I can assure you that whatever is beyond it should be, rightly, of little interest to you. Besides which, allowing me to complete this particular quest would place me in your moral debt, and I'm sure you can think of ways I can repay it. I'm a person of considerable means, both in terms of particular eldritch assets, but as well as skills and knowledge. And it seems to me as though this is a very easy thing for you to give up in return for a considerable reward. The reward, of course, being my assistance.
Of course, but as far as I believed, given the nature of our arrangement, we had that matter with the Reverie Beast in exchange for knowledge and translation about the door. It seems to us that we have not adequately gained knowledge, information, or assets from this door. In fact, we have done you a second favor in delivering this artifact of enmity to your family to you. I believe that we are down.
No, you had in your possession an artifact you did not know the nature of. You did not know whether it was helpful to you or whether it was dangerous to you. So you came to a famous magician to discover the truth. I have delivered to you the truth. And, for free, I have protected you from its dangers. Now I'm asking you to help me fulfill an ancient obligation. That is all.
Ma'am, would you give us just a second to discuss some things?
Oh, yes. I'll be at the bar. She trots off.
Mr. Spider, most of my life, I have worked for powerful people, guarding and transporting and protecting powerful things that I don't know what they are. You know, they're boxes full of stuff that I don't ask questions about. So I'm used to just trusting people and not asking questions. But if this is something that you feel we should ask questions about, I'll follow your lead.
The problem is, Mr. Lurk, I'm bluffing. I have no idea what we're supposed to do in this situation. I did not know Madam Whisper very well. At all, really. She gathered us together. Apparently, some of us more often than others. To set us on our task. I have her writings, I have her intentions, but all I know is that this door was a hard-won asset, and I am so very aware that we have nothing. But for all my studying and for all my academia and all of my interest, we still have nothing to fight the darkness that surrounds us.
I don't like how she's really rather pushing that we don't need it.
Yeah, regardless of whether we do or not, she's making that decision for us, and that don't seem right.
Yeah.
And she's trying to push that her sealing it is a favor, even though we didn't ask for it and we don't know why. It's just rubbed me up the wrong way.
Yes, whilst on one hand, I must confess to being somewhat irked at her tone, implying that we would be naughty boys caught with our hands in the sweet jar if we found out what was on the other side of the door. On the other hand, I would give all the sweets in London to know what was on the other side of that door. I have put a considerable quantity of research into trying to find an answer. And the fact that that will all have gone to waste irks me no end. My mind is not infinite, and I have spent many sleepless nights trying to translate that door.
So, what do we do? What do we say to her that will change her mind?
Don't believe it's a question of changing her mind. In order to perform whatever rites she needs, she will need to be at the door. Therefore, I say we take her to the door and see what it is she does. It may be we will find a way to learn more in the process.
She say this is the last one.
Do so.
How do we know that she's not? She said that you can. She says she's going to destroy it, but she's also said that she can move it. How do we know that she's not moving it?
How indeed.
All right,
It seems that we are at an impasse with her in the Aventine. I think the only way to go forward is to let her progress. See if there's anything more we can glean. Mr.
It's
Lurk.
as good a plan as any.
Mr. Lurk.
Yes.
When we take her to the Millennium Club, if you could go ahead of us at the door, as there is a pedestal that contains an orb of fragmented glass. If you could remove that to a private chamber carefully.
Sure.
And throw some cloths over the weapons. No need to let her know exactly the strength of our armory.
Can do.
I think that... No, never mind. Just throw a cloth over my desk.
All right.
Don't touch anything.
I never do. Trust me, I know leave well enough alone.
After the last time.
Listen, that was for my wife, that was for the missus, that is an entirely separate situation.
And should your wife want the contents of my desk?
You think I would marry somebody who would want that?
Look, I'm hurt. A fine academic mind should be the mark of any good spouse.
It's so sweet.
You saying you wouldn't want to marry me? My ship. Very well.
Alright, we call her back over and tell her it's good to go, I guess.
Okay, she'll come back over when called.
Whilst we are desperately curious, we are aware that you are unmovable on this point, and it would be therefore very foolish of us to churlishly enter into an argument about something when, as you say, it would be much better for all of us and the safety of London for us to progress amicably. You understand, however, that this is a deeply academically frustrating. And we hope that perhaps more answers can be forthcoming about other things in the future.
Well, you've made a very sensible decision.
Yeah.
May I assume that you would prefer to prepare the space a little? Unless, of course, you have no secrets from me. I warn you, I am quite as curious as you are, and I will no doubt take as much of a glance of the prevailing environment as I can.
I'm afraid the judicious use of dust sheets is all that we really have.
Well, I don't make it a habit to look under dust sheets. 9 times out of 10, all one finds is rather old furniture. Shall we then?
Oh, speak. You have no reason to speak honestly. Once you have set foot in our establishment, is there every reason that you might know where it is?
I assume. What do you mean? Will I know where it is?
It is not. It's not customary for us to let people know where
Oh.
we locate ourselves. We do not have the luxury of magical hoards that you have. To
Leech just pulls out like a little blindfold.
no, Leech, no, that's not what I meant.
Oh,
You would rather I did not tell anyone?
Mr. Leech gets out the black bag. No. Yes, simply put, that we are still somewhat vulnerable, and we're not in the habit of hosting guests. Is all.
Well, I'm not so much a guest as a serviceman entering your house to fix a problem. Think of me as a plumber for eldritch doors.
Very well. Well, given that the access to our serviceman's entrance is somewhat broken because none of us can be bothered to fix the damn boat, then the side door it must be.
Do we need a cab, or is it in walking distance?
Walking, if that is well with you.
Oh, of course. I'm a trooper.
I shall go on ahead then.
Dust sheets aplenty. Gaffer tape.
Well, why don't we have another round while Mr. Lurk distributes dust sheets and hides the distasteful French woodcuts or whatever it is you have down there?
Please, I keep my woodcuts in the attic. The basement's far too drafty.
So yeah, I guess you have another round of drinks, and head out towards Fitzroy Square.
You don't have to answer this in any strict sense of the word. But I think while they're having drinks, probably as Mr. Lurk is leaving, before we cut to the next scene, Mr. Spider is going to settle into his second drink and say, "What do you know about vampires?"
Okay.
Again, you don't have to answer that. Now.
Vampires.
Yeah,
You don't have one, do you?
not to hand.
Oh, purely academic, is it? Well, um,
Well, between academic and urgent.
but they can be fairly useful.
Useful?
Oh, you mean a vampire as an enemy?
Yes.
Oh, terrible idea. I'd rather have every form of cancer at once. I really wouldn't piss one off. If you meet a vampire, just be nice. Most of the time, they'll have some stupid, overly elaborate scheme. They'll complete it and move on. They only tend to nest themselves in a place if they've made a really serious enemy or something like that. I wouldn't bother one if you find one. I've been friends with a few. Well, friends is a strong word, of course. They're so childish.
Mr. Spider's 1,000-yard stare is effectively the equivalent of him putting his head very slowly on the table.
Oh dear, have I said something insensitive?
Sort of hoping you might have a tips of what to do if we had angered one.
Head off. Your own might be easier, but theirs is the ideal. Destroy the heart. Head off, destroy the heart, I suppose. If you want to be sure. You don't have one, do you? It's just that... I thought... The strange thing is, Mr. Spider, I thought you were one when we first met.
What?
But you were quite able to enter my home without an invitation, which they don't normally do.
She's just called you childish. She's just called you childish.
No, not at all. I thought you were one because you have this... All three of you, four of you, have the strangest aura about you, and it reminded me of a vampire I once knew. Long time ago. He's long dead. I wouldn't worry about that. But obviously, it's been a long time since I was in the game. It's obviously something else.
Perhaps.
Anyway, shall we?
Yes.
Hey, it's a good walk. It's a healthy distance of walk. But both Mr. Spider and Wilhelmina are well used to an evening constitutional, so it's not a problem. She doesn't make any remark as you lead her into Fitzroy Square. And I presume at some point you enter the Millennium Club with her. Nice.
Something of a fixer-upper, I'm afraid.
This was the Millennium Club.
Yes.
Good lord. Thought they'd turned it into flats or something by now.
Inherited it from our patron before her passing.
Well, well, well. This was once quite the venue. A shame to see it all sheeted up and dusty.
Well, given our current circumstances, venue management has been somewhat low on my to-do list. But you're right.
Well, I'm about to owe you a favour, Mr. Spider, so if you ever do decide you want to light the place up again, open the doors, and keep people away from your private affairs, I do a wicked turn in labyrinths, and I could easily set one up for you. Anyway, I don't think you want me here any longer than you need me here, so perhaps you would be so kind as to take me to this door.
Please, through the kitchen, steps down.
Excellent. And you lead her down into the cellar where everything's been shoved away and covered up, except, of course, for the ebony door.
Yeah, Mr. Lurk has covered, like, literally everything that could possibly...
Absolutely.
Like,
even himself.
Oh yeah, like, he has no sense of, like, what is more secret or more powerful versus less, so it's just everything.
Mr. Spider would sit at the door, studying it. And so I imagine that over in the corner there's, like, a bottle, a cup, you know, maybe some cocaine, I don't know. And Lurk's just put a little dust sheet over that, like, it's his private drinking corner, I don't know.
It could be a special drink, I don't know.
So, right. Good. She lays down a rather large, and the strange thing is this item that she is carrying does not suit her style at all. It's a rather large and slightly gaudy carpet bag. Proper gigantic, what's it full of, buckles, kind of. It clanks as she... It could be full of miner's tools or something from the sounds of it. Right, well, here it is then. This should take me most of the night, but I should be able to be out of your hair by morning. You really don't want to be here. I'm not about to steal anything. You're perfectly welcome to root through my belongings as I leave. As the actress said to the bishop, I'm not going to do this with you watching. And I knew both of them, and they did say that.
I heard that was a scurrilous rumour.
I started it, but it is true.
I'm going to go stand outside the door, huffily.
This bell if I need anything?
Yes, I suppose.
You couldn't fix me a pot of tea?
Right away.
If any of you are interested in the arcane arts, I can tell you now, a pot of tea really is the thing. That's my secret. Well, best begun, soonest ended.
Ah, sniped.
And yeah, assuming you leave her to it, she begins her work.
Mr. Spider goes and hangs up his jacket, rolls up his sleeves, and despite the fact that earlier it was implied that he was childish and he didn't care for it, he does huff about the place a little bit.
Are there any, like, back entrances or, like, side rooms or anything, like, adjacent to this area that she is in that I could,
Well,
lurk around
Well, you
and,
if you
spy?
want if you want to stay and if you want to spy, there are two options for you. There's He Never Left, where as the other two are leaving, you wait until she turns, you nip behind something, and so on.
Go under one of the sheets.
The other option, which might raise a little less suspicion, is to go around the long way, because of course your boat dock is connected directly to the cellar. So you could tronk your way down to the canal and walk your... I mean, it would take you about half an hour, but she's going to be at this for some time, so you wouldn't be missing much. That's probably your best bet for... I don't, because she doesn't know about that, because it is actually a concealed entrance, so she wouldn't know that was there. You'd miss the first half an hour of what she was doing, but it's up to you. You can attempt either.
I will. Yeah, I think the second one is more.
Okay.
Is better.
In which case, I don't think I need to ask you to roll anything, because it is a secret entrance, and I think you know how to open doors quietly. Yeah, you go out for another brisk walk. It takes a little bit longer because you're not fully familiar with the canal ways, but not that much longer. So maybe sort of 3/4 of an hour, and you find your way. You see the what's left of the gentleman stranger's boat. Well, the boat's actually not in bad nick. The engine's crapped out, but it's the boat's fine. If the boat weren't fine, it probably wouldn't still be floating there. I mean, that's roughly how boats work. They tend to make it known when there's a big problem. And you make your way up the rather old stone steps into there's sort of an undercellar section. You make your way into the armory, which is in a separate part from the rest of the cellar, and from there, it's trivial to get into the main cellar unseen. And what you see is the door has returned to its previous state before it was ritually locked down. You can see Miss Constantine has she's taken off her little jacket, she's rolled up her sleeves, and she's at the moment she's slowly running over the edge of it where it meets the wall, where the frame meets the wall, with some sort of unidentifiable rod device. Every now and then she stops and goes up and down a little bit, or like she's erasing pencil marks or something. And she continues doing that. This takes her a little while. She seems to be very meticulous about it. Nothing visibly changing about the door. She takes
Is she
out.
like? Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, go.
Is she like saying anything? Is there any like incantation or
Well,
anything
in
as
fact,
she's doing this?
yeah, I was about to say what she sometimes does is she goes into her carpet bag and she pulls out a rather tatty journal, a hand-bound journal. It's more or less just a sheet of leather with lots of loose papers in it. And she pulls out and she reads an incantation. Um, Again, there's no visual effect, but sometimes she'll do a sort of a satisfied nod of okay, good. Step 37 completed. The overall impression you get is an extremely tedious and very elaborate process that she's undergoing. At some point, well, you see, she's probably by the time you get there, she's probably got her pot of tea, doesn't she? At some point, she rings, and Mr. Spider will come down. She'll ask for a refresher on her tea. Spot of brandy in it wouldn't go amiss, actually, Mr. Spider, if you're of a mind. It's a little chilly down here.
What Mr. Spider will do is he will bring down more hot water for the tea, and then we'll go over to where Lurk has put a dust sheet over his drink corner and just go, "What's yourself?"
Oh, that's very obliging of you, thank you. But I really do just want a drop in my tea. This work is not best accomplished. I had 3 sherries at the pub, and I don't believe much more would be advisable. Mr. Spider, she doesn't make any attempt to conceal her work, but you can't really see that much has been done, except that the door looks as it did before she sealed it. Actually, there is one difference. There is now a rather old iron handle on it.
So what does the process entail?
Oh. The first part of it is undoing the magic that binds it to this location. Physically, I mean physically. Obviously, there's no... Before this door was installed, this was a solid wall, and I need to make sure that normal material reality is ready to reassert itself once the door is detached. After that, I have to... There's a more dangerous step. Dangerous but brief. And once that is complete, it's a case of physically prying the thing off the wall, for which I might require a little brute force, if you'd be willing. Not the sort of brute force that ought to tax you, but I am an old lady, and it might tax me a little. After that, I do have to destroy the door, but I can let you keep the fragments. They should be completely inert.
Much obliged. Mr. Spider shifts as he's almost certainly in some sort of Victorian support corset for the horror for his recovering wounds. Just goes, "I'm sure Lurk will still be around." Well, I'll let you get on.
Yes, good. I wouldn't linger outside the door if I were you, Mr. Spider. In a, oh, I couldn't like to say, in about an hour, I'm going to do something rather dangerous, and you don't want to be close by when that happens.
How are we defining close by?
Oh, assuming you're upstairs, you should be fine.
And how are we defining dangerous? Should we start removing things from the room?
No, 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 no. Dangerous only to minds, human minds. Anyway, don't know when that'll
and lets
be.
the other gentlemen strangers know.
The strange thing is, you haven't seen Mr. Lurk for such a while.
He walks around, and Mr. Leech will definitely notice that every time he sees Mr. Spider, he's like, in that very Victorian way, missing one more bit of his clothes. Like he's taken his tie off. He's just looking very like vexed. I'm vexed. I'm vexed, but I am disheveling myself one very meticulous piece at a time. So she's like, she says we should stay in the upstairs rooms.
Why? Is some sort of eldritch horror gonna flood the basement, or
Potentially.
bugger?
Bugger indeed, Mr. Leech.
I don't know what the sound of that.
I'm going back to my room.
Have you seen Lurk?
I assumed that I would have told them that what I was doing.
You're perfectly welcome to have done.
I haven't, but perhaps if you walk around some of the ground floor rooms stating what I've just told you, he will hear you. I imagine he's probably confined himself to the shadows.
He'll
Good.
be alright.
I feel like I want to stay.
It's like, you're perfectly welcome to.
Stay. I would stay.
Well, yeah, like, because do I get the sense that she is telling the truth, or that she's just saying that because this is like the most secret and she doesn't want anybody like with their ear to the door, so she's like trying to scare them away?
Well, she's not done anything all that secret. I mean, she's not done anything that you would be able to discern what she was doing yet. But that doesn't mean that there aren't secret. If she were planning on performing a heist, she might wait till the latest possible juncture so that she can make a quick exit. So I guess that's entirely possible. She's made no indication that she spotted you anyway. She doesn't know the layout of this place. It's not like she walked around and got to know it. She doesn't even know that the way to the arm. Yes, she hasn't cased the joint. She went straight to the door and began. So
you can run really fast and you got stress. Don't worry about it. Worst that can happen.
Well, what is the worst that can happen? I mean, absolutely. Who knows?
As if
Ash
she
desperately
hasn't
wants to find out what the worst that can happen is, I think.
already been casing the joint with her companion, Amelia.
It's me. I've been here the whole time.
She and Constantine are part of the fucking gentle lady bastards.
Gentle bastards.
Now, thankfully for the risk to Amelia's immortal soul, whatever's happening, she's out tonight.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Mr. Spider will have gone to knock on her door and then will have said, "You don't have to tell me if you're in, but if you are, just remain in your room for a few hours."
Well,
Potential eldritch
if Amelia
abominations.
and Constantine ever met, the universe would implode, so we can't have that. They're too awesome. They can't meet each other.
Plus, then people would get confused about which ship they ship, and you know, I'm a Cutter Amelia shipper for life. So,
but have we ever seen Constantine and Amelia in the same room together?
You've never seen them in the same city together, technically
Right, well,
speaking.
She is the eldritch horror.
has Amelia gone to Witch Cross to steal her stuff? Because if she shows up with a sack of loot, we'll be like, "Yeah,
I did it. I robbed her whole library.
You took our door.
Stay away from the
take your life."
flowers.
I took the initiative for some reason.
Amelia big sack, and we're like, what's this? Some sort of arcane tool? She's like, nope. She took our door. I took all her doors.
So, Mr. Lurk, do you stay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
afraid.
she reads aloud an incantation, and for the first time, the door visually responds. The glyphs that are etched upon it, they light up. They light up in a very specific way. It looks like they're filling up, like they're having something poured into them. The thing in this case is sort of like a candlelight. And she lays her hand upon the handle and stops. She tilts her head upwards. And she says, "What?" And she speaks a single syllable, and all the lights go out on the door. She grabs something from her bag, leaving the rest of the bag behind, and she trots out. As she's leaving, Mr. Spider and Mr. Leech, oh, Mr. Lurk as well will hear this, she shouts up, "Something's come up. I'll be back in an hour."
What? And she's almost certainly gone.
Yeah, yeah.
What? What?
Mr. Lurk, you were there the whole time, and you remember the syllable she used to deactivate the door, if that helps.
Yeah. Do you guys come down to see the door?
You probably hear Mr. Spider at least coming down to the hallway area because he's going, Constantine? Hello?
She left. I'm gonna call out and then come out into the. There is a door like from where I'm at to this room,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
Oh, I thought that's where you might have been. You said you were going to keep an eye on things. I assumed that meant you would be as up close and personal as possible.
That's what I'm good at.
So what have you found out?
I
Mr.
relay.
Spider immediately goes into, what have you found out? What's going on?
Yeah, I relay all of the information. I relay, the little like shorthand notes that I was taking while this was going on. And I especially focus on what just immediately happened and the syllable and the lights going out and all that stuff.
Ah. What was the syllable?
I tell her what it was. Tell him what it was.
Yeah.
Huh.
Do you tell him what it is? Do you demonstrate what it is? There's an important distinction to be made here.
Zoe, I am giving you every permission in my heart of hearts to be like, it was this, and then you say it, and then it happens.
Yeah, I mean,
because
do you tell him she rubbed the lamp, or do you go, she did this with the lamp? I mean, that's what we're getting at here.
all Izzy is saying is Mr. Spider is very cautious about this door. But if you go, she said she did this, al Shabbat, and then that's the way stuff happens, and I'm down.
So, yeah, the thing is, I don't know that he would, but fuck it, he's going to anyway. He's gonna be like, well, she said it, it was, what is the one syllable?
Oh God, I don't know. Something.
Aha! And so what Lurk is gonna do is he's gonna say, yeah, it was just this one syllable. She went, it was like but it was in this like weird voice, so it was more like
Yeah, and replicating her gesture and speaking it in a deliberate tone, facing the door. The symbols on the door once again fill with liquid light.
Shit.
And for the first time ever, light is visible from beyond, spilling through the gap between it and the frame. It now just looks like a door on hinges with a very bright room on the other side.
Bugger.
Oh my.
Oh no. Well,
Well, yeah.
spider. Oh,
Mr. Spider, who is standing there, extends a hand like this and glances almost towards Mr. Lurk, but not quite, and just says, "Quite right, old chap." And will reach out for the handle.
Yep. There's nothing odd about it. It seems as though it will turn to your touch, should you wish to do so.
Yeah.
So,
In my heart of hearts, Mr. Slide just said to him, "Fortune favors the bold," and
so, starting a 4-segment clock, Constantine returns. A promise that Keanu Reeves keeps making and unmaking. And it turns out that this was the very dangerous thing she was about to do, that it would be a good idea for no one to be around for. Because as you open the door, the whole room is filled with a sound that does not arrive via your ears, but sort of is created inside your own minds. And you are all knocked unconscious by it. But you may, of course, resist this consequence should you so wish, and it's resisted with resolve.
oh, that seems like something we want to be doing.
Yes.
yeah, I'm resisting.
Me how to resist?
You
Yeah,
just
how do I-
this?
you click on resolve.
Yeah.
No bonus die.
No.
Where did I roll? Where am I?
Okay, so Mr. Leech, you resist for free. Mr. Lurk, it only costs you 2 stress.
Just a second. Why does it always do this?
I don't know what it's
Why does it always
doing.
it reloads the tab because it's been idle. I'm like, well, I can't be using it all the time, roll 20.
Indeed. Do you want me to roll it for you?
No.
Okay. Oh, you've got 4 in resolve. You're well away.
I do. Although I might need you to roll it for me because it's
Yeah.
now loading slowly like a
Okay. I shall do so, but you know, let's you'll love it.
Hey,
You rolled a 5.
I'm really glad of my many numbers because I was 2-1.
There were 2 1s in there, but you only have to spend 1 stress. Now this was a level 2 harm. So it becomes a level 1 harm. So the effect is not unconsciousness in a sort of like a drowsy way. It's unconscious. You're now just a little confused. You're just you the sound passes, but you're a slight tiny wee bit addled. And by the time you have recovered from this process, a few minutes have passed. So I shall add a segment to the Constantine returns clock. But you open the door. Swings open relatively easily, in fact. Beyond, there's sort of a swirling vortex of different shades of essentially candlelight. There are some yellowy, whiter bits on the outside, but towards the middle it darkens through orange and red and ultimately black.
Oh. I think Mr. Spider will glance at the other 2. Well, She said we had an hour. Ash, you're muted, but I really hope that what you said was, yeah, let's bloody do it.
Oh. Ash wouldn't, but Leech totally would, so let's go.
Zoe, you look so unsure.
Yeah, I think Lurk is like, I know this is a bad idea. I know this is a bad idea. We shouldn't do this. But if they're going, he's going to go with them.
Sure, they might. Sure, absolutely, they might end up needing your help.
Spider
Okay.
definitely has that look. Look, Mr. Spider is a very balanced and rational human being. But sometimes he gets what we call the crazies, where you look into his eyes and you're like, oh, he's going to do something insane. And he's gonna do that now.
The
zoomies.
the second you make the decision to go, Mr. Spider, you don't see him, but you hear the voice of your late friend say, "Terrible idea. Let's go."
I feel like if Spider's doing something crazy, Leech just goes.
If Dad's doing it, we can all do it, right?
Literally, that's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm not gonna be the voice of reason here.
So who goes in first? Who's the first to go into the volcano? Into
Who do
the
you
the
think? Spider.
Yeah. So what you both see as Mr. Spider enters, the vortex of light sort of distends slightly outwards to meet him and sort of envelops him almost like a liquid. So he half walks in, half is taken in.
I bet that feels like a warm hug. So Leech is like, woo! Straight in after.
It just skips in. Here we go.
I hope Leech looks at Mr. Lurk, who's like, oh, I'm not sure about this, and just is like, well, that's all my inhibitions gone.
Leech is like, this will be the perfect place to hide from the Catholic Church after I poisoned that cardinal that one time.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, I'm just going to hide with the Eldritch Horrors, so you can't, I don't know what, put me in prison.
Eldritch Horrors have a +5 bonus against Catholics, apparently.
Obviously.
Yeah.
They
So
are
yeah,
mortal enemies.
Leech skips gaily in. Lurk's like,
Yes.
I'm good out here, actually. I'm going to close the door. It's only polite.
Down here.
We don't want
I
to
think-
draft.
I think Mr. Lurk is going to take off his hat and leave his hat outside the door and then go in.
So when Constantine gets back after we've all died, she can go, oh, I did tell them. Well, I'll
Yeah.
have the hat.
It's a lifeline. It's a something to. I mean, I'm sure that she would know that we went in just because she's.
I mean, the
It's
door's
something for
the
your-
door's hanging open. I mean, it's pretty clear.
Something
we
for your
not
wife
close
to
it?
remember you by. Just,
I don't think we want to close the door.
I don't want to close the door.
Okay.
The problem is it's not the kind of door like a normal door. You can obviously be on both sides at once, and with this door, you can't really be on both sides at once. So it's hard to sort of reach back and close it. However, you could try speaking the syllable if you want to risk it. I'm not promising it won't literally lock you in, and she'll have to rescue you and do this face. But that
Yeah,
might be a risk you take.
No, I will not do that.
What if she does it? What if she goes,
I've
"Oh, those
spoken enough syllables.
You have spoken enough
What
magical
if-
syllables for one lifetime."
What if this is her plan all along? Get us in there, and then she'll just lock us in, and then
Honestly,
Gentleman Strange is done.
the thought has crossed my mind that she is doing this on purpose. But
Well, if she didn't know you were there, then what you've basically done is phishing. Like you just harvested her password from her. She did the equivalent of put it on a post-it note. Well, she didn't really because she didn't think anyone was there. But you stepped through. Actually, to answer Mr. Leech's comment, walking through the door doesn't really feel like anything. It feels a little bit like walking. It doesn't look much like walking through a door. It looks more like walking. It feels more like walking through a curtain without parting it first. There's just that moment where it's right up against your face and then it just gets out of your way.
Would you say a dust sheet?
Much like a dust sheet. And you all emerge into a a rather considerably large chamber, a very, very large, the sort of scale of a warehouse. And the architectural styles are all over the place. They're from all over the world, all sorts of different places in the world, all sorts of different times. The various pillars and columns supporting the ceiling are from all sorts of different architectural paradigms. Some you don't recognize, some that don't look entirely like the laws of physics would allow them to exist, subject to gravity. And in between these vaulted areas, there are cabinets, stands, bookshelves, vitrines, just all sorts of display apparatus containing, name it, all sorts of things. Some things that look incredibly mundane, some things that look so supernatural that there's just no disguising it. They look utterly alien in every possible sense of that word. And yeah, that's where you are.
So, do we have a plan here, or are we just sightseeing?
This may well be our only time to be in this space.
And what is this space exactly?
Your guess is as good as mine, Mr. Leech. But I say, we might well have found our new arsenal.
Is the door still there? Like, if I
Yes.
turn around, okay.
Yes.
And
yes.
are there any other doors or doorways where there are currently no doors?
No. I guess it's one door in, however many doors out, as it were.
Hmm.
Or the other way around.
Right.
As you speculate, you hear approaching footsteps from in front of you, and from around a column, a shortish man, dressed in cream robes of no particular derivation. He is himself of an unspecified ethnicity. Oh. English?
Yes.
Of course, of course.
American, actually.
What's that?
It's a offshoot of English.
You can't be American. You're far too pale. And there were no doors distributed there. They do get around, I suppose. Well, account number? Oh, interlopers. Wonderful. Visitors, you have a door, don't know what it does, stumbled into it. We get that a lot around here.
I would say we walked with confidence, but there was some degree of experimentation.
It has been a very long time since I have had a visitor. There are not so many doors in as there used to be, and I wasn't sure anyone knew how to open them anymore. I'm the curator. It is very nice to meet you. Exploring, then? You don't know where you are?
Quite. In fact, we were told quite explicitly that we shouldn't come in here.
Oh, well. There's nothing dangerous here as long as you don't interfere with things you don't understand. But that's true of most places.
Quite.
I'm not particularly dangerous. I play a mean game of chess, but the only danger there is to your pride. And I haven't had an opponent for some time, so maybe my chess game is not quite as mean as I thought it was. In any case, welcome to the collection. I hope that you enjoy your browsing. Someone was on the other side of the door a little while ago. I don't know if it was the same door, but they were performing a ritual of detachment.
Hang on.
I believe
No.
that was our door. She seems to think that it is the last door.
Oh. Don't tell me. Constantinos of Pantelea. Or a descendant.
I would say a descendant.
I don't want to sound racist, but humans, honestly.
Quite. Can be rather rambunctious.
I assume you're not here to enact the destruction of my collection.
No. In fact, we're rather fascinated by it. We would like to stop the detachment of the door.
Really?
Well, Spider would. We're just kind of following. I'm just here to look.
And I'm just here to lurk.
I apologize.
If that was a pun, it really was lost on me. But I can see how gleefully you expressed it. So I thank you for that. I have a book of jokes. Actually, I have the book of jokes somewhere around here.
I'm sorry. Where we are on limited time, and I need you to speak
Oh,
clearly.
of course you're not on limited time. What do you mean? I didn't bother with time.
Who are you? And
have
what is this place?
No idea how expensive that is. I really actually there is some. I've got a pouch of it
Sir.
somewhere.
Mr. Curator, do you mean that as long as we are here, time is not passing as one would expect on the other side of the door?
I don't know. I don't know how you expect it to.
A linear progression 1 hour to the next?
Well, seamlessly. Who set that up? Wow. Well, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I assume that unless you have some sort of lever or actuator for a pump, maybe that stops it. I assume it's still going on out there.
Where this door, which is in our establishment, is the last of its kind, and Lady Constantine is attempting to detach the door from its moorings.
Which one are we on now? Which
I imagine,
Constantine?
I imagine many centuries from yours.
Ah, well, possibly it's been. The door has not opened for. A while. You see, the trick to having a realm that is not overly invested with the concept of the constant flow of time is to one finds it useful to measure moments of change, and so one arranges a sort of calendar of sorts.
Yes.
So it certainly has been a long time since anyone was here with anything other than destructive intent. I personally would rather the door were not destroyed. If it is indeed the last door, that would leave me somewhat stranded.
Is there any way of recreating the door?
Oh, don't know about that. Unless someone ever wrote it down. I didn't build the door, you did. And, well, not you. One of you built it. And then, I sort of got used to it. I can help out, you know. If you tell you what, I know that Constantines can be very difficult to deal with, but I've dealt with them in the past. The trick with them all is to remember that they're all very greedy people. They're all extremely easy to tempt into gaining more power. Look, here's the thing. If you can persuade this Constantine fellow to not proceed with the destruction, perhaps we can come to an arrangement. Maybe I'll let you borrow something from time to time.
Why might Constantinos have taken against you to such a terrible regard? We were informed that to pass through this door would be tantamount to Suicide.
Oh, goodness me, no. We have numerous devices that could certainly result in your destruction, but you'd have to sort of mess about with them in a way that would be unguestly of you to do that.
Be a day in my life, sir.
And several
do not
Constantines have. I am only one being, and I cannot be everywhere here at once. And so there have been a lot of thefts. There are items missing from my collection. Unfortunately, it's a sad reality.
The taking of those items may well have led to the destruction of one Constantine or another.
Certainly it's possible.
Which, of course, would lead to some sort of blood vendetta.
Oh, goodness, not a blood vendetta. I mean, what you have to understand is that they're in the sort of line of work where they expect to get into danger. No, no, no. They just think that they don't have any problem with me, I don't think. It's just that the doors themselves are obviously they're a bridge from one realm into another, and they're worried about what might cross over, which is very strange because the only thing that's going to cross over is me, and I have positively no interest in doing so. Oh, and probably because quite a lot of the things in this chamber can end the world if used incorrectly. Some of them can end the world if used correctly, I might add. I make no judgments. It's none of my business.
But you know what everything in this room does.
Oh, everything? The problem with everything is I've never found a jar to put it in. So no, I don't know what that particular item does.
But you would know if an item was a threat to creation itself.
Not off the top of my head. I have ledgers. They're not necessarily complete. And of course, some items, being in the proximity of others, have mutated a little. So even if I recorded something, say, 3 or 4 millennia ago, it may not be true any longer. I don't test the things, and goodness me, none of my business. I'm the curator, not the uh, itemsman.
Mm.
Just a quick. Where did all this come from? They just you just appeared and it just appeared, or
No, no, I'm not the collector.
no, no, no.
No, no, no. The collection, I don't know when it began, really. You might be asking a question that's paradoxical to answer. When did the collection begin? I don't know. I think the space accrued around the collection. I think that someone opened a space and put something dangerous in it and kept up the habit
And it's yeah, that makes
it
total
might have been
sense.
Constantinos of Pantelea. I don't remember, but he wasn't around that long ago. I think I've been around for a while.
Right.
He was only around 2,000 years ago. So I think I'm older than that, and I think a lot of the stuff has been here before that. But again, I did only decide to do a sort of pseudo time thing a little bit ago. People kept asking me what year it was here, and I don't know the answer to the question, so I thought, right, okay. I've got a few things made by humans that do things like count the years. I'll set them off against each other and keep track. So, by my calculation, it's roughly 1850 something. Could be a little off.
Close enough.
Ah, good. Good. Um, So, do we have an agreement? You'll help me keep my only means of access, mutual access, of course, and in return, I'll let you come and make use of the collection as long as you sign things out using the proper ledger. Of course, I hope you're not in the habit of thieving. Um,
Of course not. You have a ledger system?
any museum or collection worth its salt operates a loaning policy to other institutions.
Have you any books?
Quite a lot of books. Steer clear of those ones. Some of them haven't been written yet, and I don't think any of the blue shelves. Please, I really would rather you didn't. It's very difficult. It's not 1850 something everywhere.
No, I imagine not. Mr. Spider looks genuinely like he might cry. We have to stop her. We have to stop her. How do we stop her? She's seen our club. She knows where we are.
We have to give her something. Surely.
We have nothing to give her. What she want?
Oh, well, orb. Interesting. I've got quite a lot of orbs. Well, you could always give her.
While
Please
he's
give me a
searching,
moment.
Mr. Lurk is going to pull the other two aside and say, Constantine, she told us that through this door was temptation, was stuff that she didn't tell us about it because she knew that we would be interested in it. Do you ever think that this is maybe exactly what she was talking about? That maybe it is exactly what you want because and that makes it dangerous.
Of course it's dangerous. Very clearly it's dangerous. I'm under no illusions that we've not come to an infinite library of knowledge and magic items, and that were I to go around a corner, there would be a lovely, comfortable armchair and all the tea I could drink.
And a whole room full of cocaine. I know.
Look.
But this is exactly what she was saying. She was saying that it was exactly what you would want, that it is temptation, that it is too much for us.
Why then would it be the same chamber for all of us?
I was
No,
just about to ask that.
no offense, but I imagine to you and Mr. Leech, infinite magical knowledge of a potentially limitless power source is not your ideal dream. I imagine this would be some sort of horse ranch.
But what if it, first of all, you don't know me.
It would be an
Maybe
exquisite
it's
tailor shop. How dare you?
hats and
Haberdashery.
A
horses.
haberdashery, yes.
Look, you've come to me and talked about cocaine. I'm like, oh, this is full of, I don't know, wives and horses, whatever you're interested in.
Maybe it's because you went in first. Aren't both of you men of science? Isn't this why don't we test this and figure out what it does before we go promising who knows what this guy is, before we go promising that we're going to protect his realm outside of time? I don't all of this A lot of this goes over my head.
Occam's razor, Mr. Lurk, which may or may not exist, I don't know. But if it does exist, either this is a chamber that contains magical knowledge, which has always been here and was gathered here by our patron, Madame Whisper, in order that it might be of use to the gentlemen strangers. Or it is a chamber wherein the first person who passes the threshold, their innermost wishes are conveyed in some niche metaphysical way that we might be tempted to protect what is beyond the door for some third nebulous reason.
Would you ever leave this place?
Yes, I've things to do. I've monsters to hunt. I have London to protect.
If you were given all this infinite knowledge,
Ah, Mr. Lurk, infinite knowledge is a very dangerous thing. I have access.
exactly.
I have access to the London Library. I do not live in the London Library.
Would you if you could?
No, dreadful place to live. Drafty. Very drafty.
This place isn't drafty.
No, that is true.
If there's a comfortable armchair, if there's a whole room full of tea and all of these books and artifacts, if you didn't have to leave, would you? Would you
Mr. Lurk.
stay?
Mr. Lurk, you don't know me. May I ask you a question? You cannot offend me with the answer. Why do you think I study the esoteric so meticulously?
I think that you've, just like all of us who are part of this group, I think you've been hurt by something, or that you don't understand something. Something has affected you in a way that you can't figure out yet. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to figure it out.
Then let me speak quite plainly. Simply put, I study the esoteric that we may stop it. My knowing the deep, twisted mysteries of what lies beneath the city of London will not bring Anthony back, will not save any of the people that have been hurt or killed by the darkness of London. I am not the sort to sit on knowledge unused. If there is anything in this chamber, if there is anything in our club, if there is anything in all of London that I can learn, that I may then use to stop those creatures that would do us harm, I will do it. I did not join this organization in order to grow fat and lazy on knowledge that is unused. If you give me a gun, I will not put it in a cabinet and look at it. I will use it. And I shall use it until either I break, the gun breaks, or the monsters that hunt us break.
Mr. Lurk will sort of right his posture, dust off his coat, and just do one of those cowboy nods that is full of I understand you and I respect you. All right.
Mr. Spider glances at Mr. Leech, but I assume Mr. Leech's face is one of
Mr. Leech has a plague mask on.
yeah. So Mr. Leech knows that he, in order to get his expressions out, he has to do this. The shrug of yes.
Yeah, I don't know what to think. Oh God, I don't know. It's all too many variables.
Yes. Nevertheless, given that this is a matter of trust, Madam Whisper placed the door in her demesne. She did not put it somewhere safe and out of the way where it could be hidden forever. She intended it to be used. And yes, Madam Whisper did a lot of questionable things. But something she did was assemble the gentlemen strangers. And if we accept that our part in this organization is right and just, then everything that she has assembled around us is for us to use. And I have rankled against Lady Constantine's treatment of us as if we were children. Simply put, I shan't stand for it. Mr. Curator, what can we do?
Just a second. Or a month. Sorry, I'm not familiar. Right, okay. I think this is it. He sort of holds out a sort of walnut-sized ball of amber with some sort of dark shape inside it. She'll probably want this. Show her this, and tell her the rest of it's here too. And she'll probably want to keep the door open.
May I ask what it is?
You can ask me. Not going to tell you.
Oh.
But Miss Constantine will recognise it. And she'll either be tempted by it or not, but it's certainly the most tempting thing I can think of.
Is there anything that we should be aware of if we are to carry it through the threshold? Is it dangerous? Does it need to be held in a certain way?
No, pop it in your pocket. The door is extremely well engineered, you know. It's quite stable. I don't believe there is anything you could bring either from your world into here or vice versa and do any damage to the boundary. I wish I knew how the trick was done, or I'd make more of them. Though how I'd get them distributed, I do not know.
Oh no, I did not think that I would cause harm to your door. I simply meant, should we drop it? Might it explode or something?
It is
mundane like
amber.
that?
It is amber. It might crack a little.
Mr. Spider will hold out a hand for it.
Now, before we dispense with the matter of your convincing Miss Constantine, which, might I add, I'm extremely appreciative of, we should possibly discuss the matter of a bit of a deal between the two of us, the entity of what are you?
Oh, we are the gentlemen strangers.
The gentlemen strangers and the curator, so that we can formalize things. Of course, you need to be you need to have well, you're familiar with the concept of libraries and the concept of libraries having memberships, of course. I do need to make sure that you have an appropriate account with us so that you can borrow things at liberty, as long as you use the ledger. I won't always be around to supervise, so please do try to remember to use the ledger. It's very troublesome retrieving the items if you don't. Not difficult.
See the ledger?
Hmm?
Can we see the ledger?
That's just by the door there. And you can see this.
Yes.
You've never seen anything that looks more like a Faustian item than this. There's a book held on a granite altar by a claw-shaped pedestal of pure obsidian. The book is all vellum and red and black ink. It genuinely looks like Satan's ledger of every man's sins.
Hey.
Yeah, just over there. There's a pen there too.
Right, I would like to go through and see who's has been in here.
If you find that sort of thing interesting, please feel free to peruse. There's nothing secret in there.
I'm speaking to the DM now.
Yes.
Is there anything of like names I would recognize that would be like, I don't know, somebody who did something really bad in history? Like
Hitler. He's in
Hitler.
here from the future.
I don't think Hitler. Yeah, I was going to say
Future Hitler. It says in brackets, Hitler brackets future.
There are Hitlers about, so I think they're pretty innocuous people, though. I think
Right.
they're just normal people.
I'm talking like, I don't know.
No. Okay. The problem
Genghis
is
Khan,
he borrowed a horse from here
Horse.
that was like a
Yes.
demon horse that helped him take over the steppes.
Yes.
Genghis Khan.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of people in history that
I
are
think
not
that's a
particularly great.
fine answer. Yeah, I don't know why you guys are being so mean about it.
He genuinely.
It's a great idea.
To be honest, the sorts of people who would borrow from here are exactly the sorts of people who found empires. So yeah, Genghis Khan actually is a fine example of the sort of person who might.
Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
Alexander the Great, absolutely.
Look, Julius Caesar's in here. He borrowed a knife,
Oh,
which is
Hitler's-
You're trying to determine if this is a needful things situation where
I'm just trying to determine if we're going to turn into awful human beings.
you have a sewing machine that makes amazing dresses, but all you can wear is t-shirts or some horrible ironic
No,
punishment.
I'm just thinking, like, if there's like a correlation between the worst people in the world and whoever's taken anything out of this in this ledger.
Well, there are no names in the ledger.
Oh, for fuck.
The ledger is recorded according to membership numbers. Some of these numbers are written in the Arabic numerals that, of course, we are familiar with. Some are written in numerical systems you don't know. There's a couple in Roman numerals. They don't seem to be in any particular order. Nor are there any dates recorded, which is particularly interesting given that he has implied that, like a library, one is expected to return these items eventually.
What?
Is everything written in blood?
Oh, jeez.
It's not everything. I think there's an inkwell. Sometimes
Is it
there's a different.
blood?
Sometimes there's a different color of ink in the bottle.
I smell the ink.
It's
Put
ink.
my finger in.
It smells sort of. It smells sort of sooty and metallic. Sort of black oak gall ink.
Metallic, you say?
Just like hemoglobin.
Okay, I will stay by this ledger, and I'm waiting to hear what our account number is.
666.
Yes, I was waiting for something along those lines.
We can't all have 666.
No, everyone does. That's the mad thing about it. No, your account number. Your account number is your genetic sequence, which is why we do use a blood sample.
I don't know how that is. I'm a Victorian man. That sounds like witches.
Absolutely. So, how are we feeling? Ready to sign
To
up?
deal with the devil.
I'm what? I'm not.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were.
I'm not.
Leech didn't actually say that. Okay.
Okay, fine.
Yes, of course. Let us know what we can do.
Ah, wonderful. I haven't had a new member for a few turns of the old what do you call them with the
Hourglass.
it's sort of a month glass really, but yes, that's the thing. I happen to have a contract right here, and he sort of opens his hands, and this utterly satanic-looking piece of paper appears. The writing, of course, is all in the same Enochian letters that the door is inscribed with. Very simple, very easy terms. You know, you agree to borrow items, return them in a timely fashion, pay any penalties that might incur, and so forth and so on. A little bit of fine print, but
How are we defining timely fashion?
don't keep them any longer than you need them. Really, you know, there are supposed to be other users, although I suppose in practice there aren't likely to be.
Are we able to get this contract in written English?
No. No, we only do them like this. It's part of the mechanics of the collection.
Right, but that seems a little bit illegal.
Yeah, isn't that unfair?
I think it's
How
unfair.
How are we supposed to? But if we don't know what it says, that means we have to trust you.
And surely, if we don't know what it means, then
Well,
we
you
can't
mean
say
you-
that we fully understood it. And then
just
when
a
we're signing it's
moment.
gonna
You
be-
don't
That makes contracts void.
you don't
Yeah.
trust me?
I'm saying we don't have an explicit reason to trust every single thing that you say.
I just want my door kept open.
That's what they all say.
And do they? Well, like all of them, I want my door kept open, and you want to make use of my reliquary. So,
What would happen if there was no door?
well,
Like, what would happen if the door just...
well, then there'd be no way in. I'd sort of be stuck here all alone, and of course, you'd lose access to the collection.
Right. Right.
I would ask you to sign in blood.
If we sign, are our souls forfeit? Is this that kind of situation?
To whom?
You? I don't know.
May I
I'm
ask?
sure there's jars full of souls up here.
I am not trying to impugn. I'm not trying to impugn your character, but why on earth would I particularly want your soul? I wouldn't even know
give
what
to some demon or something. I don't know how this works.
Oh, you're perfectly capable of giving your own souls to demons. I don't need that sort of trouble. But honestly, all I want from you is to stop this Constantine chap from closing the door and destroying it. I mean, that really is all I'm after here. This is just the standard membership contract. It's just an end-user license agreement. All I need you to do is dip your thumb in the ink and pop it on the little line there, and it's all fine. No one reads these things. You just...
Do we all need to do that, or is just one of us representing all of us of the organization?
Oh, well, that's up to you to decide, but I promise you this, whoever you choose will represent all of you, and you will all collectively be responsible for any late returns.
Leech is gonna just lean to Lurk and be like, maybe we let Spider.
I can do individual membership contracts if you prefer. This one is between me and the Gentleman Strangers as an entity, but that does mean that if any of you are a little lax with your returning, then you will all have to contribute to the penalty.
I think we let Spider handle it.
Spider do that because we don't read, do we? We don't know anything really. So.
To be clear, my friends, you can select anyone to put their thumbprint on here, but you know this really is going to affect all of you,
I'm trying to make myself feel better, but
including any of you who aren't here, I suppose.
oh
Shit.
Oh, he's made plenty of decisions for us in the past. Well then, if you chaps are reticent, I'm quite content to do a personal contract. I don't want to sign you up for something you're not interested in.
Spider,
I didn't used to have any problem with this, you know. People used to come and beg me for memberships.
I told you that I was with you on this, that I usually don't pry into things, but if you want to do this, I'm behind you. I'm beside you this whole way. But it's your choice.
I'm here now.
This is quite possibly one of the riskiest things I've ever done. I hunted a vampire.
You put your thumb on the paper with a bit of ink on it. The ink sort of slides off as if the paper were waxed. Oh dear. That doesn't normally. Would you give me a moment here? He folds up the paper and it sort of vanishes.
How embarrassing. This normally doesn't happen to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have a conflicting account.
The Gentleman Strangers already has an account.
Yes, I'm so sorry. It wasn't made with any of you personally, and I of course am not. But I already have your thumbprint, Mr. Spider, here next to this one. This one's in red, but she did volunteer to do that. Just to be clear, I didn't insist. You don't remember the event? Maybe it hasn't happened yet.
That's certain height, very pale, sinister beyond all reason.
Deeply sinister, yes, very frightening lady.
Yeah. Ah, I have been here before. You didn't tell me I'd been here before.
But I assumed you'd remember. What sort of person would I be? I'm not a person, but what sort of person would I be if I said, "Hello there, welcome back"? That would be very strange of me to say, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's quite standard.
You know, now I say it out loud, I could easily have said that, couldn't I? I suppose I could have done. Yeah. But I assume you remember things. It's not my job to tell you what to remember.
This is just interdimensional IKEA where they don't choose to talk to you.
Yeah, they've got their gigantic checkout. You help yourself sometimes as a member of staff, but not always.
We see Mr. Leech with a big cart. I've been to the warehouse.
I bought 3 beds.
I bought 3 beds and tea lights, of course. We always need those.
They were on offer, so bargain.
Mr. Spider glances at his inky thumb in a sort of.
Oh well.
I suppose it's somewhat comforting that I've made a decision I've made before.
Well, there we are. There we are then. Fantastic. It's already sorted. I suppose that you're all already gentlemen strangers.
Yes. I'm
Is there
terribly
any-
sorry. How rude of me to have forgotten my membership to this very exclusive club.
I'm incapable of taking offence at such a thing.
I think it is worth asking. Is there any like outstanding balance on our account?
No withdrawals were ever made. The only time that Madam Whisper and you and the other gentleman visited was to provisionally join. No bargains were entered into, of course. She'd acquired the door, I assume, somehow, and
The gentleman?
hmm?
There was a third gentleman.
Yes, uh, big fellow, reddish brown hair, broad shoulders. I don't know how else to describe him.
Oh,
Called himself a doctor. Does that mean anything to you?
yeah. Yes, it does. Interesting.
Well, this membership therefore carries over to all of you. Congratulations, I suppose. Could draw up something fresh. We can eradicate this account if you'd prefer. No debts are owing on it or anything like that.
What's the number?
What do you mean?
What's the
Number?
number?
2069.
42069. The number on the account is utterly irrelevant. Since you are now my only customers, as it were, I shall recognize you. And the other one. Mr. Hound. There it is.
I don't think I mentioned a Mr. Hound.
No, you didn't. We now that I have access to the account, of course, I understand everyone who's bound to it. You actually quite cleverly created an external. It doesn't matter. The point is, anyone who becomes a gentleman stranger is automatically entitled to make use of the gentleman stranger's corporate account, as it were. And
Well,
Mr.
it's good
Curator.
to know when we signed up, wasn't it?
No, Mr. Curator. There are 4 of us, correct?
yes.
Or are there 5 of us?
There have been several of you, but at the moment there are 4 contemporaneously.
You left. Wonder how he managed it. Fascinating. I have a feeling we will have a lot to say to one another.
Your membership policies are your own.
Yes, but as well you know, you can have access to great wonders and not fully comprehend every single aspect of them. That reminds me, one of us needs to feed the birds.
Anyway, now that that's dealt with, here's your for Miss Constantine. And remember what I told you to tell her. That should do the trick.
The rest of it was in here. All
Yes.
the others are in here.
The rest of it. She'll want to know that, I expect. Constantine, honestly. When will they finally just die out? Not that I'm complaining, but they used to be quite good patrons, and they've fed the collection more than a few of its articles over the centuries, I can tell you. But they don't like the doors. They don't like the doors. Unfortunately, there's no way for anyone to make use of the collection without the doors, so that's what we call a humdinger.
Do we?
That's what I call a humdinger.
Oh, well. You would know.
Well, was there anything you?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Well, look, there's no point you borrowing anything and then closing the door. You really don't want an unreturned item.
Oh, no, I suppose not. In which case, it would behove us to say, are quite charming to meet you, sir. In some of our cases, for a second time.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing us these access to such wonders, and we very much hope that our endeavors will be successful and that we shall see you again very soon.
Oh, I certainly hope so. There's no point all of this going to waste.
In the meantime, should we return soon? Is there anything that we can bring you? You a tea drinker?
I've been partial to tea. Yes, yes. Some tea would be rather nice if you find yourselves China way. That would be rather generous of you. And I'm very curious as to what's new in books.
Or perhaps we could formulate some sort of book club.
Maybe a world map and a clock.
I'd rather you didn't use any of my books to club people with. Some of them are quite irreplaceable.
I shall bear that in mind.
Yes.
Mr. Spider is sort of fuging.
Well, best of luck to you.
Oh, yeah.
I go to tip my hat, and because I forget that I've left it, and I go, my hat. Oh, the door. I don't. How long have we been gone? We probably should go.
Yes.
Well, until next time, I suppose.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yes. Yes. Thank you very much.
I do not want to be the last one leaving.
Because he closes the door and says, "The price is one of you."
I think Mr. Spider will probably be the last out, just because first in, last out. He doesn't know if he will accidentally shut the door.
Okay, I'm going to be in the middle again.
I will be the first out.
Which also means you'll be the first out to see Constantine stand there going, "The fuck is this?"
With your hat on.
Mine now. My hat!
Not my
Yeah, so you all leave by turns. By the time you've said goodbye, the curator's trotted off back into the stacks.
Mr. Spider does one more look at the room of stuff and goes, "I want to live here. He was right. I want to roll around in knowledge."
What you said.
I meant it. Look, you can have two wolves inside you, and one wants to roll around in knowledge, and one wants to go and punch demons or whatever it is we do.
So you leave the collection and return to the cellar of the Millennium Club, where Madame Constantine is sitting. She's helped herself to a scotch.
I just come out the door and go, ah, fuck.
Oh, me hat.
Yes. So you did the one thing that I said was a terrible idea. You submitted to temptation. There's ink on your thumb. That's not a good sign.
Mr. Spider goes to pour himself a scotch. Yes.
Well, I hope you enjoyed your visit. It's the last one you'll be taking.
Is that so?
I have seen no reason to change my course of action. In fact, now that you've visited the place and are subject to its many temptations, it's all the more urgent that I do so.
Why?
Well, now that you've been beyond the portal, you understand what is there and why it is best that such things are kept out of our world.
You didn't trust us.
Of course not. I made that very clear.
Yeah. Well, nevertheless.
You should be willing to put in the hard work. If you want to wield arcane power, you must learn it the old-fashioned way. The trinkets in there are more dangerous to you than they are helpful.
You see, Miss Constantine, I've pulled out the object, by the way. I know you don't always look at the video. You see, I have always wished to learn the hard way. I am very willing to put in graft, but what I don't appreciate is being spoken to as if I am a school child.
Mr. Spider, with all due respect, that is exactly what you are. Are you too proud to understand that you know nothing of this world you've stepped into? And I admire you for stepping into it because, let us be real, our world is under threat from beings that are not quite of it and are not invested in the everyday nature of human life.
Lady, do you want this object or not?
I have no earthly idea what it is. What is it?
I don't know, but I'm told that it
My
will
hands
be of
don't run.
interest. Excuse me?
I don't know what it is. No, I don't want it. Put it away. Thank you. Honestly. This is what I'm talking about. You don't know what anything is. I'm not talking to you as if you were a child, Mr. Spider. I'm talking to you as if you are someone uneducated in these matters, which you must concede that you are. I wish there were another way for you to make use of these unwise baubles. But there isn't. The only way is via the doors. The doors are not a good thing in the world, Mr. Spider. The doors are unworthy of our world, and I have inherited the quest of shutting them down and breaking them apart that goes back to the days of Christ in Galilee and beyond. It is an old quest and it is a worthy one. I do not intend to shirk my responsibilities. Where did you get this? Oh, he gave it to you, did he?
Yes,
Oh,
apparently.
that's very clever. That's very nice. Have it back.
I don't want it. It was for you.
Puts it down on the table.
Apparently the rest of them are. There is more of it beyond.
Really? Did he show you?
No.
The only way this ends is in the destruction of the door. I need you to understand that, Mr. Spider. It either ends with the destruction of door by your consent, or the destruction of door notwithstanding your lack of consent.
We've invited you into our home.
Oh, goodness me. Well, I did not invite you into mine.
We came to visit, and you did.
Not at first.
Yeah.
But you proved yourself tenacious. You are tenacious, and while I find that an admirable trait, I don't necessarily like having to deal with it.
I have been beyond this door before.
Undoubtedly.
My patron clearly believed there was reason enough for us to keep it. I am not in the habit of rolling around on things I do not understand. I study. But if there is something to be studied beyond this door, for the good of the city, I shall do it.
The good of the city.
The city where I live. The city that is in the heart of creation.
Yes. I am aware of the significance of the city of London, but you will not do it any favours by having this door in the heart of it. Doors are two-way things, Mr. Spider. You can go in, what can come out?
What do you believe will come out?
For a start, whatever it is you bring out with you.
Yes. Which is our decision to make.
What was he this time? The thing in there, what do you look like?
Old man.
An old man. A friendly one or a stern one? Friendly one. He'd take one look at you and decide on friendly. A little bit bumbling, maybe? Very, very good. Fortunately, unlike me, you're unable to spot such things for the tricks that they are. And he got you to sign a contract.
I had already signed the contract.
But to find this out, presumably you tried to sign one. Yes. Mr. Spider.
Can I go back in?
Are you asking the GM or are you asking Miss Constantine?
I'm asked, yeah, Zoe to DM. Can I go back in?
You can only try.
I would like to.
She doesn't do anything to stop you. She rolls her eyes slightly.
You will hear Mr. Spider go, look, in a shocked fashion, but you are not stopped.
And you appear as you did before in the collection. You do seem to have arrived in on a slightly different part of the collection this time. You don't see quite the same things before. The only thing that's the same is the horribly sinister plinth containing the ledger.
I want to. I'm not going to say anything. I would like to sneak and see if I can find the curator.
Oh God, this is a very large space. But I suppose there's no reason you can't try. Yeah, I guess you're making me a survey?
Can it be a prowl?
Since you're specifically trying not to be seen in return, yes, it could be a prowl.
Is it risky or controlled?
I don't think it's risky. No.
Okay.
You have a membership here, remember? You're allowed to be
That's
here.
true. That's
How
true.
you choose to move when you're here is entirely up to you. But you can have an extra die. You can have a bonus die because there is a minor help in play.
Oh.
There we go, 5. Okay. Then yeah, you see the curator. He's walking around carrying a rather large tome. He's inspecting items and making notes in it.
Does he look the same as when we saw him
Yeah.
a couple minutes ago?
Old
Okay.
guy of ambiguous ethnicity and sort of layered cream-coloured robes.
I'll watch him for a second, see if I can just spot anything weird about him, and then I'll leave. I'll go back out.
To be honest, aside from the weird things he told you about himself, you'd have no reason to think he was anything other than a lightly elderly gentleman.
Okay. Yeah, I go back out.
Ooh, a minor hinder from Kilburn. Interesting. Interesting. Noted. Okay.
Anwar, I'm selling your orb.
Interesting. Did you make your way out? Yeah, no problem.
For your information, he was exactly the same. He's I don't know what you think he is, but Mr. Spider is right and accurate.
Uh-huh.
And you should, as is always assumed.
Mr. Spider looks touched, but a bit like, I know I'm touched.
I really hoped we could work together on this.
Unfortunately, we've not worked together on anything. I'm not in the habit of being dictated to.
I've not dictated to you, Mr. Spider. You've lived an enormously privileged life if you feel that this is dictation. Did you never have a nanny?
I have quite outgrown my need for a nanny, thank you.
Yes, I imagine so. What I'm trying to suggest to you is that if you had ever had such a thing as a nanny or a governess, you would know that I am nothing compared to such people as that. I am as gentle as a lamb. I have found it in my experience that when dealing with the magically naive, that a certain amount of information is too much. And
Yes.
I tend to be guarded with it. You bowled your way into a labyrinth and got yourself stuck in it. The first time we...
Also fine. My nanny found me very difficult to handle because I would always question why. I have not gotten to where I am in my life by blindly listening to what others have told me.
Well, the reason why is that the doors are gateways from one world to another. Gateways from one world to another are an intrinsically terrible idea because no world should be connected in that way.
The foundation of the Empire is on connecting worlds that were hitherto unconnected.
Yes, I'm familiar with the Empire. Intimately familiar with the nature and scale and scope of the British Empire, Mr. Spider. But Britain is not in another world from the Indian subcontinent.
Might as well be.
No, Mr. Spider. Britain is not another world from the Indian subcontinent. It is merely an ocean journey away. The distance between this realm and the realm in which the collection is situated is incomprehensible to you. And it should remain that way.
You know that the bloke in there thinks that your ancestor made the collection, right?
Constantinus of Pantelea, yes.
Right. So why are you so hell-bent on destroying something your ancestor made?
No ancestor of mine created those doors. Those doors are older than our bloodline by a long way. They extend into the old Babylonian Empire.
But how can a door be made to go somewhere that didn't exist yet?
That's not exactly what happened. It's complicated. The answer is that it proved expedient for some things to be put in a space no one was using, and as the use of the space expanded, so did its scale, and eventually someone happened upon it and needed to build a door. As I say, the existence of the collection, like the existence of any collection, is only as dangerous as the foolishness of the person who tries to use an item from it. The doors are a separate question. I don't specifically bear any ill will towards the curator, whatever it is. But I do know that it is better off in its realm and we are better off in ours.
I'm sorry you have failed to persuade me.
As I said, Mr. Spider, there is only one ending to this. I would prefer us not to be on a war footing. It will not be a very long one. I do not care for London, and I intend to leave it as soon as possible, and I doubt I shall be leaving it with the door intact. But I have very fond memories of the Millennium Club, and I don't want to see it in ruins. So, here is my suggestion. Without looking at it, she starts rolling the amber orb around the table idly. You say you have some use of what lies beyond the door. I have uses for an outfit like the Gentleman's Strangers. And as it so happens, not having been in London for the better part of 2 decades, I have no bolt hole up here that I can make use of. So here's my bargain for you. I would like free reign to hole up in the Millennium Club when my business brings me to London. I would like to be entitled to privacy in a space of your choice designated to me, and in return for which I will not destroy the door until it becomes abundantly necessary to do so. I will only urge you to one thing. Make as little use of it as you can. The act of a denizen of this world using the door weakens the boundary. You do not want it coming down. Because that kindly old man will not necessarily be a kindly old man when he comes through here. My great-grandfather met him and described him as a three-headed demon of a most draconic aspect. Other records of him describe him as a small purring Persian cat. And yes, he appeared quite the same each time. You might think that you have a perfect right to use this door, Mr. Spider. Quite the opposite. I have a perfect right to destroy it. You can either live in a world where you accept my terms and I allow you use of the door, or you can live in a world where you suddenly find yourselves in need of a new home.
If you make use of the Millennium Club, stay as a guest. I accept that the use of the door is risky. I made it very clear before that I didn't wish to be enemies with you, because I very much enjoyed our academic discussions and genuinely looked forward to having an amicable educational relationship. Should I trust that there is some veil or barrier that will be weakened by the use of the door, which I have no reason to doubt, I remain interested in educating myself about the monsters that we face. Because not knowing what we face has gotten us killed. I would be very interested in learning more from you. Safely.
I wish that that were enough for you. I have a great deal to teach. You do not need the door or what lies beyond it. I promise you, you do not need it. Greater magicians than even I have decided that the things beyond that door should be put there. Not loaned out, put there. I promise you. If I can make one last appeal to your good sense, let me take the door down. Let us forget about it. You've borrowed nothing. You can even return this. I'm begging you, Mr. Spider, see sense. There is no war to stop in the streets of London that is worth starting a worse one.
If you are sincere that you wish to educate us, then allow me to begin. First lesson, as a pupil, I do not respond well to blackmail. I am very content to leave the door where it is, and I am very content to leave it closed. But do not offer education in return for its destruction.
Mr. Spider, I have attempted to give you a lesson. You have not taken it. Therefore, I do not believe I shall be educating you. My terms remain as they were. Use of the Millennium Club, and the understanding that one day the door will have outlived its usefulness. At which point there won't be a conversation, because clearly you cannot be conversed with on the subject. One day the door will be gone. And part of the timeline for that happening will depend on what I see you doing with it. If you do not uphold your word to use it only sparingly, it will come down all the sooner. That is my bargain.
Then I am sorry it has come to this.
It's come to nothing, Mr. Spider. I don't understand your position at all. You've been quite unreasonable.
Because you have made no interest in understanding my position. You have dictated. I agree to your terms. You may have our attic. We will have it assembled for you in a few days. Please leave. Should you change your mind about discussing as friends, my door will be open.
Does he speak for all of you? I have no value to you at all. You have met this being that you trust, that you know is not human, that you know is not invested in the continued health of our world, and you have met me, who both am human and am interested in the continued health of our world. You're not the first gentleman, strangers, and I do not wish for you to join them.
I'll just say, in that place, there were no flowers that knocked me out upon touching them.
I didn't do that to you, Mr. Lurk. People grow dangerous plants. There are things far worse than flowers that knock you out for a day in there. Why are you being so petty about this? Very well. I will be your occasional tenant. And one day, apparently, the destroyer of this building, since that is the only path you want to walk down. I could have walked out of here at dawn, with nothing but a few fragments of wood in my bag, and we could have carried on as friends, perhaps even more than that, as I agreed to teach you.
How could we have carried on as friends when you have treated us in no way friendly to this point?
Mr. Spider, we have not been friends. We have been acquaintances, and we've worked very well together. I am not an hysterical person, and as such I do not wish to continue a conversation if it goes down that path. I have made my case to you, you've not accepted it. How could I possibly teach someone who will not respect my expertise? I cannot do it. You would not, under any circumstances, Mr. Spider, take on an apprentice or a retainer who was fundamentally incapable of understanding the most basic precepts of your work. If you tried to recruit someone into the Gentleman Strangers who said, well, I quite like swinging a sword around and attacking vampires, but I'd much rather work with the vampires, you of course would not admit them to your organization, would you? You'd keep them at an arm's length. I have come to you, and you've said you'd much rather trust that thing in there than me. And
I am
as...
interested in using what we have
Mr.
at
Spider,
our
calm
disposal.
yourself. I will not be...
We have come to you so many times for answers. And to this date, you have given us tasks, you have given us ultimatums, and you have given us nothing. Christopher Wick is dead because we had nothing.
I did not kill Christopher Wick, as far as I am aware. I have no earthly idea who that is.
No, I imagine you would.
But if you do not wish for there to be more Christopher Wicks, then your job is to save London from the sorts of threats that killed him, I assume. That door is such a threat. That door is such a threat. I am part way through my ritual. You have opened the door, which completes another part of the ritual. I am but a few hours away from saving London from not the worst thing hanging over it, but certainly one of the worst. I can complete that work. Or we can proceed another way.
Mr. Spider is going to go to his desk, remove the dust sheet, grab a few of his notebooks, and the bottle of scotch. It is down to you two gentlemen, and Mr. Hound, should he return. I'm going to my room. Do as you will.
I never had sons, but I've had a few nephews. I know what nephew behavior is. Gentlemen, I've put my case to you. The door is a threat. I've even expressed to you how much of a threat and what the nature of the threat is. You couldn't possibly require more information from me. All you see is treasure. You've been blinded by it. I'm asking you one more time not to be.
I I trust Mr. Spider. But
Mis-
I know that I respect you. I hope I don't have to say that explicitly, but I will. He's a complicated man. I know he's angry, but he just stepped foot into a place that I don't even think that he could comprehend existed. And I think it's overwhelmed him a bit. I think if we give it a few days, let everybody simmer down a little bit, we can maybe have this conversation again.
No. I will not have this conversation again. I have never conversed with anyone upon this subject. And were I any of my ancestors, there would have been no conversation. This building would simply have collapsed one day and there would have been no explanation for it. And a Constantine does not offer tutelage trivially, which I have done. I don't find myself offended by insults, Mr. Lurk, but I do understand when I have been insulted all the same. You should know, because I'm a professional, that something far worse is about to happen to this city. Something I might have helped you prepare for, but now I see no reason not to simply leave. A storm is coming, I believe within the next few hours, that will be unlike anything London has ever seen. I am actually speaking reasonably literally. Someone in this city has worked a very big piece of magic, Mr. Lurk. We're talking true names of higher beings magic. And I think this city is on the verge of demolition. And there's nothing beyond that door that can help you. Do you know why the Gentleman Strangers exist? Because there's no match to properly applied human cunning. And there's no monster so bad that you need to delve beyond that door to defeat it. Nothing. The worst thing beyond that door is the thing that looks after everything else.
Why is the door here if we didn't need it?
Because whoever put it there thought you did. These doors have existed for a very long time, Mr. Leech. They've existed as a temptation. But decisions have been made. This is not my home. It is merely an office space I am renting. As such, I hope you reconsider one day. But I would prepare. I do not know if this storm is going to remain entirely a question of weather. But there's something powerful on the wind. It whispers its own name. That means someone somewhere has summoned it.
Why are you so hell bent on the door if this storm is going to be worse than anything we've ever seen? Why are you not preparing for the storm? Why?
I am preparing for the storm. I intend to be on a train first thing tomorrow morning.
Where did you go? Why did you leave the door?
Because I sensed a change in the air and I wish to investigate it, of course. Which I have now done so. Hence my diagnosis that someone has worked magic upon the very city itself. They're very dangerous. I wouldn't worry too much about killing them or anything anything rash with some mysterious artifact from ancient Assyria or whatever it is you might happen to find, or some sort of pen that writes prophecies but they only ever come true for you, or whatever stupid Faustian nonsense he's swinging in your direction. I shan't keep this trinket, but I appreciate the gesture that was attempted. Beware the storm. Someone's up to something, and I have a nasty feeling the storm is but step one of a much larger plan. Well, it seems I'm not welcome under this roof, so I shall avail myself of some rooms at the Aventine and be out of London by mid-morning tomorrow. You know how to reach me if you have any need of my services, and we can discuss my rates, I suppose.
Thank you for the warning. I mean it.
We are both professionals in a very particular field, protecting this world from things that wish it harm. Please look after Mr. Spider. I do not know who this Christopher Wick person was, but his death has affected Mr. Spider in a way that is causing his judgment to be impaired. A sharp mind like Mr. Spider possesses is by far and away one of the best tools in defending this city. Do not allow it to be compromised.
Thank you for the insight.
I do not leave this place as your enemy, Mr. Lurk, Mr. Leech. I leave it
I'm
as
aware.
one professional to another. I hope you consider it unawkward for us to be acquainted in the future. There are many things upon which we may collaborate. Good night, gentlemen. He packs up her bag, conspicuously leaving the amber, walnut-sized orb behind. She puts up her collar and holds her jacket close as she exits. You can see when she opens the door closes itself on her. The wind outside is extraordinary.
What do we do with this orb? We...
Throw it back in the door. I don't care. Just leave it on the... It doesn't matter.
Leech might... I don't think... Throwing it in is not...
Like a grenade. Just open it and toss.
Flashbang!
Any library worth its salt has a 24-hour return box, you know. Although, on the other hand, this library is staffed permanently, so there's no need for that. It never closes.
I think it might be best to put it back. I'll go back through that door. Okay.
It was fine.
But it might not be so fine now that... Okay. Leech is gonna go through the door.
You're bringing back the little
yes.
wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. You enter through the door. It's easy enough to find the curator, especially if you call out to him. Like he's around. He's helpful, reasonably speaking. Ah, gentlemen. Oh dear. Have you come to give me some rather bad news?
Oh.
Well,
the door still works, but
it's not to be destroyed?
Unclear.
Apparently there are bigger things we should be worrying about.
No, that is always the case.
But this was of not any use at all.
Well, it was worth a try. Thank you very much. I'll put it back with the rest. Well, don't worry, my friends. I'm sure you did your very best. And it sounds like the door isn't about to be immediately destroyed, so I'm perfectly happy to uphold my end of the bargain. Please feel free to pop through and help yourself. Don't forget the ledger. I'm not always necessarily easy to find, but I trust you. Just call out to me if you need me, but otherwise I'm perfectly happy to let you get on with your own affairs. If you're not sure what something is or does, Welcome to ask me. I might remember, or just leave it be, or try your chances. Who knows? What's the worst that can happen? Actually, I am morally obliged to tell you that the worst thing that can happen is the utter destruction of both time and space.
What?
That's so unlikely.
No.
That's so
Alright.
unlikely.
Sir, have you been a three-headed demon before?
Or a cat.
I've only ever been myself.
That doesn't answer the question, and you know it.
No, it doesn't, does it? Well, I've got a lot to be getting on with. I suppose I'll see you next time. Please feel free to stay and browse if you like. The door is always open now.
All right, Mr. Leech, let's go.
Let's go, Mr. Lurk.
Cheerio then. You step back through the door.
I don't like this guy. I think we fucked up.
Made a mistake.
No.
Lurk, what the
Well,
Now you're alone in my study. Get out of my study.
they're in the cellar. It's not your study.
It's my secondary study. It's where I keep my. It's where I do my basement thinking.
You
The whole
truly,
place is his study.
but you
Yeah.
truly are a citizen of the British Empire. You've simply planted your flag here and gone, it's second study.
Ada has 3 rooms in this house: the cellar, where he does his basement thinking; his actual study, where lives all his books and his desk and stuff; and then his bedroom, which is now like an annex to his study, but only because he was bedbound for so long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
May I suggest that perhaps we batten down the proverbial hatches if there's going to be a big storm? I don't particularly want the windows caving in, or
Is it something that you can handle yourself?
I can. Yeah, I'll have a look and make sure that, you know, the door.
Because
won't
I've
fall
got.
off.
If it's gonna be the whole city, I got me and mine to take care of.
Go ahead, go. I'll. Yeah, just don't get caught in the.
And warn
Wind.
Mr. Hound if you see him.
Oh God, who knows where he is? He's got that dog. Don't worry about it.
Warn Burke.
Dogs can
Burke will
sense
get
storms.
blown away.
Oh
Burke is like the size of a tiger, I imagine. So
And reasonably low to the ground. His actual surface area is pretty low. Now I come to think of it, he's probably fine.
it's probably just him breathing that's making all the air everywhere. Just literal Cerberus living with us. We don't. Raise a 3-headed dog. We got one already.
So, Mr. Spider, how does Mr. Spider react to the news of the storm? Mr.
He
Spider,
tells him.
Mr. Spider can hear the rattling of nearby buildings. It's extraordinarily breezy out there.
Leech probably, because I'm guessing Lurk has already gone to go and
Batten down his wife.
I was just gonna say batten down his wife.
make sure she don't blow away.
Putting sandbags on his wife.
Oh no,
Sorry,
these
dear.
gigantic Victorian dresses. Oh, I'm like a kite. Help me. Oh, my
Let her take
petticoats.
it off.
I long for the invention of Edwardian fashion. Help me.
Leech will go and relay information of.
Mr. Spider's having a bit of a grump, so it's probably one of those awkward situations.
I imagine Leech is hanging in the doorway and doesn't want to actually enter the threshold as a fear of their own life.
What?
She said something about this storm and it's much worse than the door, and
A magical storm.
yeah.
And she didn't lead with that.
No, that's what I did ask, but
Much rather have stood in our own home and narrated to us the terms of our.
Such a spoiled nephew.
Yes,
Christ.
I am a white man.
No,
in
I love it. I love that.
Victorian
I love that.
London.
I love that you're playing up the public schoolboy defying nanny angle. I genuinely think it's the most fantastic nuance of Mr. Spider's character. I think it's brilliant. It amuses me so much because it's everyone has their limits on like civilized behavior, and his is someone treating him like she's his governess, and I'm beyond here for it. I think it's a stupidly good idea.
So she would
So-
rather have stood in the cellar and said, "Don't go through the door, don't disobey me, listen to what I have to say," but did not lead with, "There is a magical storm." And don't tell me. Don't tell me. She's on her way out of London first thing in the morning and is going to do nothing to help us with this situation.
Apparently she was going to help us, but then
Oh, she was going to help us, but then I wouldn't eat my porridge.
yeah. So she's gone. And Lurk has gone because he's
As a wife.
sorting out his and hers or something. I don't know. And
You're not married, are you, Leech?
God no.
That's a terrible idea.
Oh, I am making sure that the house doesn't fall down.
Yeah.
Or the basement gets flooded, or the orb just blown away into the wind.
The dog.
The dog. Oh. I don't know where Mr. Hound is. I'm going to go on the assumption that he understands what a storm is.
Probably battening down the orphans.
Aye. So,
Yes, I suppose sandbags in the around all the cellar doors. We don't know if the canals will flood. I shall suppose find some lumber and do the upstairs windows.
and then sit tight, I guess. Sounds like she has no ill will, but
No, of course she doesn't. She knows best, and she feels like going forward, provided we do everything she says, she will continue to do absolutely nothing.
oh, and we did go back and give the amber back.
Huh. Shame. Probably for the best.
I didn't want a library
Although
fine.
I do agree we should be cautious about overly going through the door.
I don't plan on it. We did ask a question that didn't sit too right with Lurk and I. We asked about the whole cat three-headed thing, and he kind of just brushed us off.
He isn't human.
No,
It's pretty telling.
but he also didn't look like a three-headed serpent dog thing when we went in there. Anyway, I'm not going through that door again because, quite frankly, that freaks me out. So I'm going to put sandbags around every door, and then I'm gonna go to bed.
The cellar doors.
Aye, and then I'll go to bed. And hope we don't get all blown away or whatever this magic storm of.
I suppose we should be very grateful that Miss Constantine didn't tear our house down just before a big storm swept it all away.
Yeah, she seems to think that London won't exist come a few days, so I guess if London doesn't exist, the door doesn't exist, she wins by proxy. Hold on.
Her infinite battle against London. I'll outlive you, London. Curse you, London.
She just hates London.
And we should all be very grateful for her help. Yes, I know. I know. Ignore him. I'll be in the attic.
Okay. Yeah. Leech is just gonna pretend that didn't happen. And there's been too much going on. Like,
Look, you've hitched your wagon to a man who is brilliant, but is also troubled.
The politically correct term in this day and age is lunatic.
Ghosts in his blood.
Yes, so as you're left alone, you hear the rustle of a newspaper.
No.
You didn't handle that brilliantly, Nathaniel.
that who I think it is?
Mm-hmm.
I know. I just. You should be the one talking to people.
I know I should, especially since I learnt the most important lesson any young man about society needs to learn, Nathaniel. Nanny knows best. Look, personally, I think, you know, she just wants to make sure she's the only source of eldritch assistance in town. Now you've
Yes.
got your own, you don't need her anymore. Maybe that's what it is.
Christopher, I didn't listen when Nanny knew best when I was younger. She very rarely knew best.
Hmm.
Now I have to. Jacob was always Nanny's favorite, and I was always the tearaway who just wanted to be left alone.
Christopher is gone. There is nothing but an open newspaper. Elsewhere in London, the ritualists chant, the celebrant draws an elaborate circle upon the floor, and the king oversees all. In London, the wind answers its summons. High above, clouds coalesce from seemingly nothing. Those below who are sheltered from the wind, buffeting their ears, can hear the beginnings of thunder. No rain yet, but the sky is utterly darkened. At the moment, the final word is spoken by all in the chamber except for the golden-robed king. Unseen by the ritualist, a great flash of lightning briefly wreaths London in stark white light. The following thunder is far displaced. The storm is high, but getting nearer. With the rite completed, the ritual chamber falls silent. Without saying a word, the Archer King turns on his golden heel and departs, and beneath his mask there is a strange smile. So the days of the great storm are upon us. Things are about to get hairy in the city of London. I'm not going to do a real downtime because we didn't do a real score, but if there is anything non-downtimey anyone wants to do, or I should first of all say, the door and what lies beyond it was not designed by me. So, that was designed by one of our audience members, Liz, I think. Years and years ago, we had a little auction to raise some funds, and some of our audience members chipped in, and their prizes included telling me what I'm about and helping me do some world building. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
The
it was
door?
really fucking cool.
The door is very
It
cool.
I'm
was.
super into it.
The door was a very cool idea.
I'm imagining the curator now played by Liz.
I mean, why not? I think they do a great
Yeah.
job. I think that'd be fantastic. So yeah,
Talking about, you don't know what Liz looks like.
what?
You're just like, yeah.
I've
Ash
seen-
just went, no,
Oh right,
Ash.
I just sure
That-
get him on.
that might not be true. Liz has been in Trash Games, right?
No, that's
No,
Lou.
no, I know Lou has. I'm sure Liz had when we did the charity stream, right?
Is that the one I was asleep for?
Oh, I don't know.
Liz, if you're watching this, were you in a trash game? I'm
I-
sorry
I-
if I've
I-
forgotten.
I-
It's been years.
I think you have been.
Liz, who are you? Reveal yourself.
Tell us everything.
Liz.
I'm sure I've met them anyway. So yeah, I mean, is there anything that's not quite a downtime action, but like, social scenes with NPCs or sort of mundane stuff? Happy to hear about it. Next time we meet will be on the 16th of April, with the storm still raging, of course, overhead, and some pretty dramatic stuff's about to go down towards the final few episodes of this second season of Gentlemen Strangers. So I suppose, therefore, it falls upon me to thank you all for watching, and thanks to Zoe and Izzy and Ash for helping me tell the tale of the Gentleman Strangers and how they finally got that blasted door open and met the perfectly nice guy on the other side. Who all he wants to do is just loan you useful items. No agenda, just useful items. A typewriter that writes best-selling novels, but they happen in real life. Shoelaces that are perfectly tied, but one day they turn into snakes. I'm glad no one asked what the late fees were. I'm glad that the implication of the late fees was sufficiently sinister that people thought maybe we're just better off never finding out. And a subscription to tomorrow's newspaper. Yeah, absolutely. You always have objective news, but any stories you don't read don't happen. That's quite a cool one. I quite like that one, actually. I'll write that down. But also thank you so much to our beloved supporters on Patreon. The new way I've discovered of pronouncing it, who are Andrew Cherupnin, Araloki, Dinkledore, Elagos Alexander, Henry Prestige, James Malloy, Joe, Ken Poynter, Michael Bowman, Mike Fielding, Mike Capaldi?
No, that's the singer.
Kabumblefun.
Bumblebee.
Mike Bumblebee. To Mike Bumblebee, photosynthetic, and you are all excellent people, except for Araloki, who knows what he did. So we'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Until then, just look after yourselves, and if you do go through any strange doors, check their membership policy before signing up. Until then, take care of your fine selves. We love you all very much, and we're out.